Hey guys, it's me Table. How are we doing today? So this is a new one. We got another one going on. We're going to go with this guy. This guy is I do believe he's called a Lord of Contagion, and he's base coated in, I do believe it's called a Xandri Dust, right? So that's what we're base coated in, Xandri Dust. Let's take you through a few of the bits I did model making wise. I should really do the modeling videos as well. So first things first, I chopped off the end of this gun. I consider these guns to look a little bit too long. I don't like the look of them. And you can see up here, I will show you up here. I've put the gun barrels up here as a chimney. You see that? There's a chimney there. And round, I've done some green stuff flesh. That's a video in its own right, but I've green stuffed it on there. Have I done any additional things? I don't believe I have. I think that's the only addition. I have drilled these bits, and deliberately, if they've drilled wrong, that's fine, and then just chopped out some sections of those pipes, chopped out some sections of these pipes, and I do believe this one as well was me. Yep, and the gun barrel. That looks like everything I've done. Other than that, it's just as it is. So very little changes in the model making. Let's go ahead and get started. Right, so we're going to need Aryan blue there, and we also need something. Look, now see here the pigment started to go funny in this Ushabati brown, Ushabati bone. But if we put it on the old vortex mixer, look it up if you don't have one. They're well worth getting. When I discovered it, I was as excited about the vortex mixer as I was the wet palette. Frankly, Army paid to wet palette. Vortex mixer is just called Vevor, Vevor. So there's my recommendations. Right. So we've got bone, Ushanti bone in comparison to the other bones that I have. Let's have a look. We've got Xandri dust. So it marks up from that, and then we could go into Screaming Skull. So we do have some variation there. That's great. Of course, you can, if you don't want to use a pot, you can just mix the colours. You know, you can lighten it up. The only reason I have the colours is because when I mix it, I might not necessarily get the right match. You know, my eyes are a bit rubbish, so there's that issue. Okay, so let's go through what we're going to do. First things first, almond blue. Now the good thing about Death Guard is the same thing that White Orcs are good, and that is that you can make mistakes. So they're great for learning. I never was going to have a Death Guard army, but I got 9th edition, and they just happened to have some in, and it just kind of went from there. So, okay, so anything that's going to be metallic, we're going to just do this. I'm not even going to care to, you know what? This brush is too precise for this work. That's my nicest brush. Well, newest brush, shall we say. They fall apart quite soon when I use them. So you can see that that's pretty good, that tip. What we need is something a little bit more akin to this. That's what we need. Much better. I'm being too cautious. Right, let's get this on. So we just, oh, because it's Death Guard, right? And if you go too carried away, you can always touch it up. So that's it. Anywhere where there's metal, you're going to want to put this on. It's a bit watery. But can we see that all right? Yeah, we can. So we're going to do that one. There we go. There's some chainmail in there. Let's do that. And any more on that gun I want to do metallic? I guess this bit down here. Can you see that? This bit here. Let's do that. We'll do that just fine there. I don't want to do too much of it, but we'll do that one. Okay. Consider that. Can we see that? Yeah. Consider that marked. Right. And then, so there's this arm as well. We can do that, but I'm not going to do it too much. Let's leave it there. So that's what you do. So on anything metallic, you do the Aryan blue, right? That's what we want. And then anywhere where we have armor, because now Death Guard green, right? I don't know if you feel like this, but Death Guard green, it's just an impossible color to work with. I've never got Death Guard green to look good and to mix well, play well with other colors. It's been an absolute nightmare. I can't stand it. So what I'm going for more is more Heresy era more bone armor than green, because the Death Guard green is an absolute nightmare. So now the thing is, this looks a little thin on first coat, and it is, but as it's Death Guard, I don't mind it so much. Now it's going to mix into that blue a little bit, so really I should have waited, but maybe the mix will yield a result that's interesting. Yeah, this is really thin, so you're going to need multiple coats in that. But first things first, we just put it on. Okay, so we do that, right? Maybe I'm being too cautious, because it's going to get washed anyway, this first coat, so maybe I just need to be a little bit more. So we're going to do that. You know what, screw it, let's just show you how it's going to look. It's a little bit watery, but we're building it up over time, so. But I just want to. Okay, so I'm not gonna do any more on that particular side, and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's dried. There's some blue in there. Excuse me, blue in there that needs doing. Let's just wash this a little bit, and then just get the blue in there. Okay, there we go. So that's all we need there. Happy accidents and all that jazz. Let's do the flesh, and I'll show you what we're doing with the flesh. We should go. We don't want to go too bright with the flesh, but we can. I mean, here we go. Here's one. This is another one of those problem colours. I've got loads of pots, but they go funny quick. Bugman's Glow. We're going to go Bugman's, right? We can do Bugman's for the flesh. And again, you don't need a good brush for it at this point. Also, for Nurgle, you don't want it to be super precise. I think Eldar and Jakari would be really tough because they're really clean models. I think they're probably the apex of neat painting. If you can paint Eldar, then I think you're pretty darn skillful. So with this, again, you could leave some of the Zadradi dust through, but again, it's you're not being super. You don't want to be super precise with it. Sisters of Battle, that would be another one that you have to be super precise with. So just whack a bit of that on. There we go. It's bleeding into each other a little bit, and I guess that's okay. Flesh, flesh, flesh. Right, so that's what you're going to do, right? That's the combination. Ahriman Blue. What we do go for? Not Screaming Skull. Ushabate Bone. Ushabate. And then Bugman's Flesh thing. Do that all over. And then once it's dry, you want to give it a semi-watery wash of Agrax Earthshade, paying attention to the recesses. Don't worry too much if it pulls on the model. You can just use a brush to dab that off. But once we're at that point, then we can start thinking about how we want to tidy up if at all we need to. So that's where we're at. Okay, that's the first step. Lord of Contagion, we're on our way. I'm Dave. I'll see you again soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye.